Hello and welcome to World Talks. I'm Diana Skaya. A day after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy set 2027 as Ukraine's EU goal, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz called it impossible, saying all countries must meet the EU's Copenhagen criteria, a process which normally takes years. Now, what does this mean for Ukraine's ambitions and EU unity? Roland Freudenstein, the co-founder of the Brussels Freedom Hub, joins me now to discuss. Roland, so glad to have you here with us on TVP World Talks. I'm just going to invite you to listen to exactly what Chancellor Merz said.
Ukraine's accession to the EU on January 1st, 2027 is out of the question. It is not possible. All countries, including Ukraine, that want to join the European Union have to fulfill the Copenhagen criteria, a process which normally lasts several years.
So, Roland, German's Chancellor says Ukraine's EU accession simply unrealistic by 2027. What do you think? And right away, let me ask you, what would you say are the biggest obstacles that make a 2027 accession date for Ukraine simply unrealistic?
First of all, we don't know whether the war is going to end within this year. And I believe the accession of a country that is at war, even if it's a defensive war and a justified effort to survive, is not possible. Second, any country that joins the European Union has to fulfill the so-called Copenhagen criteria. You know, sounds very abstract, but it means, first of all, the rule of law, strong and independent institutions. And Ukraine is on a good track, but it's not there yet, as we've seen over the past months again and again. And also, its economy must be able to withstand the pressures of the European Union's single market. In other words, competitive pressures from enterprises all across the remaining European Union. That comes after a couple of years, after a peace deal, and with a massive reconstruction effort for Ukraine, but that will not be the case in all probability by January 2027. And finally, I think it has to be said that, you know, the European Union enlarged by a couple of countries before they were ready, definitely in the case of Romania and Bulgaria in 2007. And that was a pretty traumatic experience. And it wouldn't help Ukraine, and it certainly wouldn't help the rest of the European Union if this goes too fast. So,
Roland, then why is, I mean, it may not sound as such a, a smart question if I am saying this, but so then why, with what you just said, why is Zelenskyy rushing, saying that he wants his country to join the EU by 2027, a year from now?
I think he defines this as a kind of security guarantee. I don't know where the idea originated. My suspicion is that it was Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner who came up with this, knowing that Russia is never going to accept NATO membership of Ukraine, but Russia has signaled in past years already, we wouldn't have any problem with EU membership. So since Washington wants to outsource Ukrainian security in many aspects to the Europeans, fast-track EU membership would look like something that would reassure Ukraine. And it would be part of Washington's master plan for a peace deal anyway. So why not rush it? But someone like Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner has no idea, and in fact is probably not even interested in making this actually work, and has no idea of the actual difficulties involved here. And they are objectively facts.
Roland, do comments like this, you think, expose a growing divide? I mean, I won't just talk about Germany, but actually within the EU, between strong political support for Ukraine and reluctance to commit to concrete deadlines or timelines in general?
I'm not sure there is any member state of the European Union at the moment that wants Ukraine in, or that considers Ukraine joining next January a realistic goal. Honestly, I would have to see that government, especially the Eastern flank countries. They have gone through the process of joining the European Union, which involves years of negotiation, which involves years of adaptation. And, you know, frankly speaking, it's also some of the Eastern flank countries that have very concrete worries and concerns connected to Ukraine joining the European Union too fast, for example, when it comes to agricultural goods, for example, when it comes to services. Ask Polish truck drivers, ask Polish farmers what they think about Ukraine joining in January 2027, and you will get very, very touchy answers to that.
Negative responses, probably.
You know, I don't see any member state right now approving this fast track joining.
Roland, I want to ask you about the Foreign Affairs Council meeting in Brussels. What can Ukraine be expecting?
As far as I know, the main topic today in the Foreign Ministers meeting, Foreign Affairs Council of the European Union, was declaring the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, of Iran a terrorist organization. I mean, that was long overdue. France was resisting. France changed its position yesterday, so today it was adopted. Besides that, I think they had they were discussing an Estonian proposal about visas, or actually banning Russian soldiers from or former Russian soldiers in the Ukraine war from accessing the European Union, the Schengen zone. And beyond that, I don't think there were any radical decisions taken regarding Ukraine at this Foreign Affairs Council.
Well, now let me ask you this. I just want to go back to the topic, of course, of you know, we're heading into 4 years, right, of a war between Russia and Ukraine in under a month. Let me ask you this now: if realistically, again, 2027 is off the table, and like you said, we don't know whether the war will end, you know, sooner than later. But what should Ukrainians realistically expect next from the European Union? I mean, let's. Aside from, you know, integration?
First of all, Europeans have to still speed up their military and industrial assistance to Ukraine's defense effort, and the massive air attacks by Russia have demonstrated this dramatically in the last couple of days. I mean, that is something that can, of course, happen on a bilateral level, but it should be coordinated by the European Union, and especially when it comes to technology transfer, when it comes to capital investment, when it comes to industrial cooperation in mass producing cheap but effective weapon systems, especially air defense systems. The European Union should act much faster. And besides that, the European Union just has secured 90 billion euros to basically bail out Ukraine and help its war effort for the next 2 years. So, you know, that's not nothing. And we have chapters to negotiate, 30 such chapters for Ukrainian accession. And you know, last but not least, there is a political obstacle that at the moment, one member state government, the Hungarian one, vetoes any progress in Ukraine's road to EU accession. And we all have fingers crossed that the government changes in about 8 weeks from today. That would be a great progress for Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Roland Freudenstein, the co-founder of the Brussels Freedom Hub, for all your input with us here on Oil Talks.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this edition of World Talks on TVP World. I'm Diana Sky. I'll see you next time.